Kareem's fingers went stiff around the paper. His eyes kept moving left to right, but his face stopped moving at all, like someone pressed a pause button. The light in the room looked too bright on his skin. He swallowed once, hard, and his mouth opened, but nothing came out. Lena leaned in. "Kareem, what is that?" Dahlia reached across the table like a hawk. "Give it here." Kareem pulled the paper back so fast his tea almost tipped. His hand shook, his lips turned pale. For one strange second, Kareem looked like a child caught in a lie too big to carry. Grandma Nadia didn't raise her voice. She didn't slam the table. She just watched him, quiet, steady, like she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. Then Nadia blinked, slow and calm, and the room around her faded. Because this was not how her birthday was supposed to feel. It started 3 days earlier, on the morning she turned 70. Nadia woke before the sun, the way she always did. The house was still dark and soft, like it was holding its breath. She sat up slowly, listening to the small sounds she loved, the faint hum of the fridge, the whisper of wind against the window. 70. She smiled to herself. Not a big smile, just a little one that warmed her chest. "You made it," she whispered, as if she was talking to her younger self. Nadia swung her feet onto the floor and stood up. Her knees complained, but she ignored them. Today was a happy day. Today was family day. She had planned a party, not hing fancy, just a warm gathering at home. Tea, rice, roasted chicken, little sweets with honey, and a big chocolate cake she had ordered from the bakery on the corner. She had even bought new paper plates with tiny gold lines because she wanted the table to look special. Not for strangers, for her own people. On the kitchen counter lay a small notebook with a list written in neat handwriting. Balloons, candles 70, cake pickup at 2, Sammy's gift, Lena's favorite tea, extra chairs. Nadia touched the list with her fingertips like it was something precious. She had called everyone last week. She had sent messages too. Lena said, "Of course, Mama." Kareem said, "We'll be there, don't worry." Dahlia had laughed and said, 70. That's a big number. Even Huda had said she would come. So Nadia believed them. That was her first mistake. She cleaned the living room until the floor shined. She wiped the photo frames and straightened the cushions. She hung 2 balloons near the window. One said 7 and one said 0. They were a little crooked, but she loved them anyway. In the corner stood an old family picture, Nadia holding baby Lena, both of them smiling. Nadia looked at it and felt a soft ache of love. She remembered Lena as a little girl who used to run into the house shouting, "Mama, Mama!" as if Nadia was the most important person in the world. Now Lena was a woman with a husband, a child, a busy life. But Nadia still thought, a mother's birthday matters. By noon, the house smelled like food and warm spices. Nadia placed bowls on the table and lined up cups. She set napkins in neat stacks. Then she placed a small wrapped gift near one chair. For Sammy. It was a toy ship, painted blue, with tiny windows and a little white flag. Sammy loved ships. He always pointed at pictures of boats and asked questions. Nadia imagined him running in, eyes bright, shouting, "Grandma!" She imagined Lena hugging her. She imagined Kareem shaking her hand and smiling. She imagined even Dahlia sitting down and acting like family for one day. Nadia checked the time, 1:10. She washed her hands again, even though they were already clean. She fixed her scarf in the mirror. She opened the curtains to let the light in. Then she sat down for a moment because her back was tired, and she didn't want to look tired when they arrived. 1:40. Nadia stood up and walked to the window. A car passed, not theirs. She went back to the kitchen. She checked the stove. She adjusted the plates. Again. 2. Cake time. Nadia grabbed her bag and went to pick it up herself, because she wanted everything perfect. The bakery girl smiled and said, "Happy birthday," like it was the easiest thing in the world to say. Nadia carried the cake home carefully, both hands under the box. Inside was written in chocolate, "Happy 70th, Nadia." For a moment her eyes got watery, not from sadness, from feeling seen. She set the cake on the table and lit one small candle, just 2. See how it looked. The flame danced gently. 2:30. Nadia's phone stayed quiet. She checked it anyway. No new messages. She told herself, they're driving, traffic, Parking, 3. She reheated a dish because she didn't want it to cool. She turned the heat off again. She didn't want it to dry out. Her hands started doing nervous little tasks, even though she kept telling her heart, calm down, they're coming. 3:20. Nadia's smile began to feel heavy, like it was made of stone. She called Lena. It rang and rang. No answer. Nadia tried again. This time it went to voicemail. She swallowed and told herself, maybe her phone is in her bag. Then she called Kareem. No answer. Now Nadia's stomach felt strange, like cold water was inside it. She tried one more number. Huda. No answer. The house grew louder in its silence. Nadia looked around at the table. Everything was ready. The plates sat waiting like polite guests. The chairs were pulled out like open arms. Nadia checked the time again. 4. She sat down slowly. She listened. No footsteps, no knock, no laughter in the hallway. Just her own breathing. Nadia stared at the balloons. The 7 leaned slightly, like it was tired too. She told herself, don't jump to bad thoughts, don't be dramatic. But the silence kept pressing harder. 4:18, her phone buzzed. Nadia's heart jumped so fast it hurt. She snatched the phone, expecting, happy birthday, Mama, we're almost there. But it wasn't a message, it was an PP notification. A new post. From Kareem. Nadia tapped it, still confused, still hopeful. Maybe it was a sweet surprise. And then she saw it, a bright photo of Lena standing on a cruise deck, hair blowing in the wind, smiling wide. Beside her, Kareem grinned at the camera like a man with no worries at all. Behind them were other family members, faces Nadia recognized, laughing, holding drinks, posing like they were in a movie. Another photo, a long table of food, shiny and full, people sitting close together, clinking glasses. Another photo, Dahlia in the center wearing big sunglasses, one hand lifted like she was waving at the world. Huda leaned against her, smiling like a fan. The caption said, family time, making memories. Nadia's fingers went numb. She scrolled again, slow, not believing it. More photos, more smiles, more proof. They didn't forget. They chose. Nadia looked up from the phone and stared at the empty chairs in her living room. Her cake sat untouched. Her candle burned down quietly, melting into a small puddle, like it was crying without sound. Nadia felt something crack inside her. But it wasn't her heart breaking the way it used to. It was something else, like a door closing. She set the phone down carefully. Then she did something that surprised even her. She smiled, not a happy smile, a calm smile. A smile that said, now I see the game. Nadia picked up the notebook on the counter. She opened to a clean page, and she wrote due. Just one sentence, very neat. From today, I stop begging. Then she closed the notebook, stood up, and blew out the candle with one steady breath. Lena called the next morning like nothing had happened. Her voice sounded bright, forced bright, like someone trying to paint over a crack in a wall. Morning, Mama. How are you feeling? Did you sleep okay? Grandma Nadia held the phone away from her ear for 1 second and stared at it, as if it belonged to someone else. Then she brought it back and answered in a voice that was calm and soft. I slept, she said. A small pause. Lena laughed a little. Good. Listen, about yesterday. Nadia didn't help her. She didn't say, it's okay, don't worry. She didn't say, I understand. She didn't give Lena a bridge to run across. So Lena had to keep walking with no bridge. It was last minute, Lena said quickly. The cruise, I mean. Kareem's cousin got a deal and everyone jumped on it. The signal was bad. I wanted to call. Nadia stared at the empty table in front of her. The plates were stacked again. The balloons were still in the corner, looking tired. Did you know about my party? Nadia asked. Lena made a sound like she swallowed wrong. Of course I knew, Mama, but it just happened so fast. Dahlia kept saying it was now or never. And Kareem said we can celebrate with you when we come back. I promise. We'll do something even better. Even better. Nadia almost laughed, but she didn't. Enjoy your trip, Nadia said simple. Lena blinked on the other end. Nadia could hear it in the silence. Lena had expected anger, tears, begging, anything she could argue with. Not this. You're not upset, Lena asked carefully. Nadia looked out the window. A bird hopped across the balcony rail like it had no worries. I'm not shouting, Nadia said. That doesn't mean I'm fine. Lena's voice got small. Mama? Nadia didn't say, come back. She didn't say, please. She didn't say, you broke me. She said, be safe. Then she ended the call. The quiet felt different this time. It didn't feel like she had been left behind. It felt like she had stepped out of a room full of smoke. Nadia walked into the kitchen and poured water into the sink. She watched it run and run, as if it could wash away the sting in her chest. She told herself, don't cry over people who didn't even look back. But her eyes still burned. She pressed her fingers to her forehead, steadying herself. Then came a soft knock. Nadia opened the door and found Uncle Farid standing there with a small pot in his hands. Steam leaked from under the lid. I made lentil soup, he said. Too much for one person. Nadia tried to smile. You didn't have to. He stepped inside, careful and respectful, like her house was sacred. He set the pot on the counter. Then he looked around. He didn't ask why the balloons were still up. He didn't ask why the cake box sat in the corner. He simply said, they didn't come, did they? Nadia's throat tight. Ened. She hated how her face told the truth even when she didn't speak. No, she said. Farid nodded once, slow, like he already knew the answer. People show you their real heart on your important days, he said. Your birthday, weddings, funerals. Those days reveal the truth. Nadia turned away so he wouldn't see her eyes. I saw photos, she said quietly. Farid didn't react with loud shock. He just asked, photos of what? A cruise, Nadia said. The word tasted bitter. All of them, smiling. Farid's jaw tightened, but he stayed calm. And Karim posted it. Yes. Farid let out a breath through his nose. That was not a mistake. That was a message. Nadia's fingers curled around the edge of the counter. I don't know why they hate me so much. Farid's eyes softened. Maybe they don't hate you. Maybe they just don't respect you. That hurt worse, because hate is loud. Hate is obvious. Disrespect is quiet. It hides in smiles. It wears polite words. It makes you feel crazy for being hurt. Nadia sat at the table, and Farid sat across from her. He didn't crowd her. He didn't tell her what to do like she was a child. He waited. Nadia stared at the wood grain of the table, at the tiny scratches that had been there for years. I used to think if I was patient enough, Lena would see, Nadia whispered. I thought if I stayed gentle, they would become gentle too. Farid's voice was low. Gentle doesn't mean weak, but some people only understand strength. Nadia looked up. What do you mean? Farid pointed with his chin toward the corner where the cake box sat. You prepared everything, he said, and they left you alone. Then they showed you their joy without you. That is not normal. Nadia's eyes narrowed slightly. Lena said it was last minute. Farid made a small sound, like he didn't believe it. Nadia pulled her phone from her pocket and opened Karim's post again. She forced herself to look closely, not like a hurt mother, but like someone reading a sign. In one photo, Dahlia stood in front, wearing a wide hat. On her wrist was a gold bracelet Nadia had seen before. Nadia remembered that bracelet. She remembered Dahlia wearing it 2 months ago and saying, "This is a family piece. It will go to the next generation." Nadia had smiled politely then, even though it had felt like a warning. Now she noticed something else. Behind Dahlia, Karim had his arm around Lena's shoulders, but his hand sat too tight, too firm, like a clamp. And Lena's smile looked strange. Not fake, not fully, but not free. Nadia stared until her eyes hurt. "Farid," she said slowly, "do you ever feel like Lena is being pulled?" Farid nodded without hesitation. Yes, Nadia's heart thumped. "By Karim. By Dahlia," Farid answered. "Karim is part of it, but Dahlia is the hand behind the curtain." Nadia swallowed. "She always speaks like Lena is her property." Farid leaned forward a little. "Then stop treating this like a small family trouble. Treat it like a pattern." Nadia's hands shook slightly. "I don't want to fight. I just want my daughter back." Farid's voice stayed gentle. "Then you need clarity. Not drama. Clarity." Nadia sat very still, thinking. She remembered the last time she visited Lena's home. She had brought homemade bread. Dahlia was there, sitting in the best chair, ordering people around like a boss. When Nadia offered the bread to Lena, Dahlia had laughed and said, "Don't fill her head with village food, she needs to stay slim." Lena had smiled weakly, eyes down, and Nadia had felt rage, but she swallowed it. Another time, Nadia had asked Lena to come by for tea, just the two of them. Dahlia had suddenly planned a family dinner on the same day and made Lena feel guilty for even thinking of leaving. And Kareem always said the same thing, "You know how my mother is, like it was normal, like Lena should bend forever." Nadia's jaw tightened. Fareed watched her carefully. "What are you thinking?" Nadia lifted her eyes. They were dry now, steady. "I'm thinking," Nadia said, "that they didn't just skip my party." Fareed nodded. "They wanted to show me my place," Nadia continued. "They wanted me to feel small." Fareed's mouth pressed into a thin line. "Yes." Nadia took a slow breath. "Then I will not feel small." Fareed's eyes warmed with something like pride, but he didn't show it too openly. He just said, "Good." Nadia stood and walked to the corner. She picked up the cake box and penned it. The cake was still perfect. The chocolate letters still shined. "Happy 70th, Nadia." She stared at her name. Then she did something she never did. She cut herself a slice. She sat back down and ate it slowly, like she deserved it. Fareed didn't speak. He only poured tea into 2 cups. After a few bites, Nadia set the fork down. "Fareed," she said quietly, "I think Kareem lies too easily." Fareed nodded. "And Dahlia?" Nadia looked at the balloons. "She enjoys hurting people with a smile." Fareed didn't argue. Nadia held her cup with both hands. "When they come back, they'll try to fix it with words." Fareed said, "Words are cheap." Nadia's voice stayed calm, but it had steel inside. "I won't shout. I won't beg. I will just watch. And learn." Fareed leaned back slightly. "That is how you win against people who think you are foolish." Nadia's phone buzzed again. A new post. Kareem again. Nadia opened it. This time it was a video. Music, bright lights, everyone cheering like the world was made only for them. And there, for a second, the camera caught Lena's face. She was smiling, but her eyes looked tired. Nadia's grip tightened on the phone. "See?" she whispered. Fareed looked at the screen. "Yes, I see." Nadia lowered the phone and stared at the tea, watching the steam rise. Then she said one sentence, soft but sharp. "I'm going to bring the truth home with them." And in that moment Nadia didn't look like an old woman waiting to be loved. She cared like someone who had finally decided she was done being used. Nadia didn't sleep much after that, not because she was crying, because her mind kept turning, slow and steady like a key in a lock. In the morning she walked to the market, to buy vegetables, the same way she always did. People greeted her, smiled, asked about her birthday. Nadia smiled back and said, "Thank you." She didn't tell them the truth. Not yet. She wasn't hiding out of shame. She was waiting. At the tomato stand, she saw a woman from the neighborhood, an older auntie who loved gossip like candy. 70, the woman said loudly. "Where is your big party? I didn't hear music." Nadia kept her smile gentle. It was quiet. The woman leaned closer. "And your daughter? Your son-in-law?" Nadia picked up 2 tomatoes and inspected them like it was the most important thing in the world. "They are traveling," she said. "Traveling." The woman gasped, eyes wide. "On your birthday?" Nadia nodded once, slow. "Yes." The auntie clicked her tongue. "Shame." Nadia didn't argue. She paid for the tomatoes and walked away. On the way home, she passed the small cafe where Uncle Farid sometimes sat. He was there reading a newspaper, glasses low on his nose. He stood when he saw her. "Good morning." Nadia lifted her bag slightly. "Good morning." Farid's eyes studied her face. "You look different." Nadia wasn't sure how to explain it, so she just said, "I'm awake." Farid nodded like he understood. They walked back to her building together. In the elevator, Farid said, "You asked yesterday if Lena is being pulled." Nadia's jaw tightened. "Yes." Farid added, "If you want to pull someone out of a deep river, you don't jump in shouting. You find a rope. You look for the current." Nadia stared at the numbers above the elevator door. "I need to know what's real," she said. Farid's voice was calm. "Then start with what they brag about. People hide lies under pride. That afternoon, Nadia sat at her table with her phone, a notebook and a pen. Not to cry scroll, not to argue in comments. She was done with that. She opened Kareem's page again. There were more cruise pictures now. So many. Every photo looked happy. Every caption sounded proud. And almost every one included Dahlia, always in the center, always smiling like she owned the sun. Then Nadia noticed something small that made her stomach twist. Kareem had written, "Blessed to travel with my parents and family." My parents. Nadia blinked. She knew Kareem always called Dahlia my mother, loudly like a badge. But he didn't often mention his father. Not clearly. Nadia tried to remember the wedding day. She remembered Dahlia's face clearly. She remembered her voice, loud and sharp. She remembered how she had grabbed Lena's hands and kissed them in front of everyone, acting sweet like a stage performance. But Kareem's father, Nadia remembered only a shadow, a man who stood far back, a man who didn't speak, a man who left early, and after the wedding. Nadia couldn't remember seeing him again. Maybe he was quiet. Maybe he didn't like gatherings. But still, years had passed. And now Kareem wrote my parents like a proud man. Nadia clicked the comments. People wrote, "Lovely family. Dahlia looks so elegant. Where is your father? We never see him." Nadia's eyes narrowed. Kareem replied to most comments quickly, like he loved attention. But to that one, he didn't respond. Nadia scrolled up and looked at the family photo again. There was Dahlia. There was Lena. There was Huda. There were cousins, aunties, uncles. And there was a man standing beside Dahlia. He wore a hat low, sunglasses, and a stiff smile. Nadia zoomed in. Something about his face felt unfamiliar. Not just unfamiliar to her, unfamiliar in a strange way. Like he didn't belong in the picture, like he had been placed there for a reason. Nadia's heart beat faster. She turned the phone toward the old family photo on her shelf. Lena as a baby, Nadia young. She stared at Lena's features, her eyes, her nose, the shape of her mouth. Then Nadia thought of Kareem, of Sami, and of the way Dahlia always bragged. Our blood is strong, our name is strong, our family is special. Blood, name, family. Farid's words returned. People hide lies under pride. Nadia grabbed her notebook and wrote, "Kareem rarely talks about his father. Dahlia controls everything. My parents is new, that man in the fort. Oh, looks like a stranger." That evening, Nadia didn't call Lena again. She didn't want another weak excuse. She wanted truth. So she did something she had never done before. She called Uncle Farid. "Can you come?" she asked. Farid arrived with his calm face and warm eyes. He sat across from her at the table. Nadia showed him the cruise photo. "Look," she said. Farid leaned in, squinted, and studied the man beside Dahlia. "Do you recognize him?" Nadia asked. Farid shook his head slowly. "No." Nadia's chest tightened. "Neither do I." Farid sat back. "Tell me something. When Lena and Kareem married, did you ever meet his father properly?" Nadia tried to remember. She remembered Dahlia talking over everyone. She remembered Kareem moving like a host at his own event, shaking hands, laughing too loud. She remembered a man in the back silent. But did she meet him? Did he speak to her? Nadia's voice dropped. "Not really." Farid nodded like he had expected that. Nadia whispered, "Farid, what does that mean?" Farid didn't rush. He chose his words carefully. "It could mean nothing," he said. "Or it could mean Dahlia has been hiding something for a very long time." Nadia's hands gripped her cup. "Like what?" she asked. Farid looked at her, serious now. "Sometimes a person builds their whole power on a story, a family story, a name, a connection. If that story is false, then the power is false." Nadia's mouth went dry. She stared at the photo again, at the man's stiff smile, at Dahlia's proud posture, and suddenly Nadia remembered something that had never made sense before. Years ago, Lena had come to Nadia crying after a fight with Dahlia. Lena had said, "She keeps saying I should be grateful because Kareem comes from a good line. She says we're lucky she accepted me." At the time, Nadia had thought it was just arrogance. Now it sounded like fear. Fear of someone looking too closely. Nadia set the phone down. "Farid," she said softly, "can we check something?" Farid's eyes stayed steady. What kind of something? Nadia swallowed. Not gossip, not rumors, real information. Farid nodded. Yes. He pulled out his own small notebook, the kind he used for bills and dates. Tell me what you know, he said. Full name, any old addresses, any dates you remember, anything Dahlia has ever said that sounded too perfect. Nadia began listing things slow. Kareem's full name, she said. His mother's full name, the name of his father. She calls him Hassan. Farid wrote it down. Nadia added, Dahlia once said they lived in the coastal district before they moved. She said it like it was a trophy. Farid wrote. Nadia kept going. She also said Kareem's father owned property. That's why she acts like she's above everyone. Farid paused his pen. Property claims leave trails, he said. Nadia looked up. Trails? Records, Farid replied. Not everything is hidden. People can hide faces, but they struggle to hide papers. Nadia's saint. Omar fluttered with nervous hope. Farid continued, We won't break laws. We won't do anything dirty. We will only look at what is public and what is real. Nadia nodded. I don't want to hurt Lena. Farid's voice softened. This is not about hurting her. This is about saving her from lies. Nadia breathed in slowly. For the first time since her birthday, she felt something besides pain. She felt direction. Farid stood up. Tomorrow morning I'll show you where to start. Nadia followed him to the door. Before he left, Farid turned and said, One more thing. Nadia waited. Farid spoke quietly. Dahlia will not like questions. When people build their life on a story, even small questions feel like attacks. Nadia's eyes hardened. Let her dislike it. Farid nodded, satisfied. That night, Nadia sat alone in her living room. The balloons still hung in the corner, dull now. She looked at the 7 and the 0, and she thought about the family that chose a cruise over her. Then she opened her notebook and wrote another sentence under the first. Truth is coming. She closed the notebook. And in the dark, Nadia's calm smile returned, small, steady, and a little dangerous. The next morning, Nadia met Farid outside the small public office near the main road. It wasn't a scary place. It was plain. A metal door, a dusty notice board, and people holding folders like shields. Nadia didn't like places like this. They made her feel old and small. So she lifted her chin and walked in anyway. Farid didn't talk much while they waited. He just pointed at signs and told Nadia which line to stand in. He was calm in a way that made other people step aside without even meaning to. When it was their turn, Farid spoke politely to the clerk. He didn't say, we suspect someone. He didn't say, we want to expose. He asked simple questions about public records, the kind anyone could ask. Nadia sat on a chair nearby, hands folded, watching everything. The clerk typed and typed, eyes half bored, half curious. Farid asked for old address details connected to the name Dahlia always bragged about. He asked about property records in the coastal district. He asked about a person named Hassan, the man Dahlia called Kareem's father. The clerk printed a few pages and slid them over like they were nothing. But Nadia's heart started beating fast, because paper does not smile, paper does not pretend, paper does not flatter and insult in the same sentence. Paper is either true, or it shows where the truth is missing. They left the building without speaking. Farid waited until they were outside, away from ears. Then he handed Nadia the pages. Nadia looked at them slowly. She didn't understand every line, but she understood enough to feel her stomach tighten. Some details didn't match what Dahlia always claimed. A spelling that was different. A date that didn't fit. A gap where there should have been a clear trail. Nadia's fingers shook a little. So he lied. Farid didn't rush. We can't call it a lie yet. But we can say this. Her story is not clean. Nadia stared at the pages. Clean. That word mattered. A clean story had the same facts everywhere. This story had smudges. Farid pointed at one part. Here, this suggests the name Hassan is connected, but not the way she says. Not strong enough. And look here, this address changes too often. Nadia felt heat rise into her face. Not embarrassment. Anger. All these years, she whispered. All these years she acted like Lena should bow her head. Farid nodded. People who feel weak inside often act loud outside. Nadia's mouth pressed into a tight line. She thought of Lena, always trying to keep peace, always smoothing things over like a cloth over broken glass. Nadia's voice grew quieter. If Dalia's story is messy, what about Karim? What if he doesn't even know? Farid looked at her. Or what if he knows and stays quiet because he benefits? That thought landed, heavy. Nadia pictured Karim's smile in the cruise photos. That easy grin. That caption, family time. Making memories. He had posted it on the same day Nadia sat alone with a birthday cake. A man who could do that, could do many things. Nadia folded the papers carefully and placed them in her bag. Now what? She asked. Farid's eyes stayed serious. Now we don't guess, we confirm. Nadia looked at him. How? Farid hesitated like he didn't want to say it too fast. There is one kind of proof, Peep. I can't talk around. Nadia already knew. The words sat in her throat like a stone. DNA, she said. Farid nodded once. Nadia felt sick for a moment. She wasn't excited. She wasn't proud. This wasn't a game. This was her daughter's life, her grandson's future, her family's truth. Nadia whispered, if I do this, Lena will be hurt. Farid shook his head gently. Lena is already hurt. She is just being hurt slowly every day in ways she has learned to call normal. Nadia's eyes stung, but she forced them dry. Farid continued, truth can hurt once, lies hurt again and again. Nadia looked at the street, at people walking with shopping bags, laughing, living normal lives. She wished she could be normal too. She wished her biggest problem was choosing tomatoes. But her family had turned her birthday into a message, and Nadia had finally read it. She walked home alone, moving slowly. Inside her apartment, everything was still too quiet. She took the balloons down and folded them into the trash. She wiped the table. She washed the cups that no one used. Then she sat with her phone and opened the browser. She searched for a DNA testing service that was legal and clear, one that didn't look like a scam. Her thumb hovered over the screen. For a second, she thought of Lena as a little girl again, cheeks sticky with sweet tea, crawling into Nadia's lap. Nadia whispered, I'm doing this for you. Then she pressed the order button. When the confirmation appeared, Nadia stared at it like she had crossed a line she could never uncross. Her phone buzzed. A message from Lena. Hi, Mama, we'll be back in a few days. I miss you. When we return, we'll do your birthday properly. I promise. Nadia read it twice. Then she typed back, simple and calm. I'm glad you're safe. We'll talk when you're home. No hearts, no pleading, no anger. She placed the phone down. That evening, Farid came by for a short visit. Nadia showed him the order confirmation. He didn't smile, but his eyes softened. You did the hard part, he said. Nadia shook her head slowly. The hard part is coming. Farid stood up to leave, then paused at the door. Nadia, he said, whatever the truth is, you will handle it. You have already handled something worse. Nadia frowned. Worse than this? Farid looked at her with quiet respect. Yes. You handled being treated like you don't matter. Nadia didn't answer. She just stood there, holding her bag with the papers inside and her phone with the order confirmation. After Farid left, Nadia locked the door and leaned her back against it. Her chest felt tight, but her mind was clear. She walked to the kitchen, made herself tea and sat down. On the table, she placed 3 things in a neat line: her notebook, the printed records, and the order confirmation on her phone. Then she opened the notebook and wrote one more sentence, very neat: I will not be fooled again. She closed the notebook and took a slow sip of tea. And for the first time since her birthday, Nadia didn't feel like she was waiting for her family to return. She felt like she was preparing to meet them. The DNA kit arrived in a small, plain box with no drama on the outside. No loud words, no warnings, just a quiet package that felt heavier than it should. Nadia carried it inside like it was glass. She locked the door, washed her hands, and sat at the table as if she was about to do something important in a school exam. Her heart thumped, but her face stayed calm. This is not for revenge, she whispered to herself. This is for truth. She followed the instructions exactly. Slow, careful, clean. When she finished, she sealed everything the way the paper said. Then she held the envelope for a long moment, staring at her own handwriting on the label. A strange thought hit her. How one small envelope could change a whole family story. She dropped it into the mailbox downstairs and stood there for a second, listening to the metal click. It sounded final. Back upstairs, the apartment felt too quiet again. Nadia tried to keep busy. She swept, she watered her plants, she fixed a loose button on her coat. But her eyes kept drifting to the clock. Days passed like that, quiet, slow, sharp around the edges. Lena sent little messages from the cruise, smiling emojis, photos of the sea, short lines like, "We're having fun, and can't wait to see you." Nadia replied politely. "I'm glad you're safe." That was Al. On the third day, no hearts, no long words, no pretending. On the third day, Farid stopped by with bread. He didn't ask 100 questions. He only said, "How are you holding up?" Nadia poured tea and said, "Like a tree in wind." Farid nodded. Bending but not breaking, Nadia looked at him. "What if the truth destroys my daughter?" Farid's eyes stayed steady. "The lie is already destroying her. You just haven't been allowed to call it a lie." Nadia swallowed. She thought of Lena's tired eyes in that video, smiling while looking trapped. She thought of how Dahlia always stood in the center of everything like a queen, and how Kareem always let her. Nadia's voice turned hard, just for a second. "He posted those photos on my birthday." Farid didn't flinch. "Yes." Nadia stared into her tea. "If someone can do that so easily, what else can they do easily?" Farid's silence was an answer. That night, Nadia dreamed of her living room filled with family again, chairs crowded, cups clinking, laughter loud. Then she looked closer and saw that everyone's smiles were painted on like masks. She woke up before dawn with her heart racing. 2 more days passed. Then, finally, another envelope arrived. This one was thicker. Official. Nadia's hands went cold the moment she saw it. She didn't open it right away. She set it on the table and sat across from it, like it was a person staring back at her. In the afternoon, Lena called, "Mama, we're back tomorrow." Lena sounded excited, but the excitement was shaky. "We'll come see you first thing. We'll do your birthday properly, okay? I told everyone. We'll make it up to you." Nadia looked at the thick envelope. "We'll talk when you're home," Nadia said. Lena hesitated. "Are you still mad?" Nadia's voice stayed soft. "Mad is loud, I'm quiet." That scared Lena again. Nadia could feel it through the phone. After the call, Nadia stood up and did something that felt strange but right. She cleaned her living room again. Not like someone preparing for guests, like someone preparing for a storm. She put away anything fragile. She moved the photo of baby Lena into her bedroom drawer. She didn't want Lena to see it and crumble before the truth even had a chance to stand. She laid out cups for tea, only tea, no cake, no food spread, no balloons, no pretending. In the evening, Farid came by for a minute and saw the thick envelope on the table. He raised his eyebrows but didn't ask to see it. "Are you ready?" he asked. Nadia stared at the envelope. Ready is not the right word. Farid nodded. "Then be steady." Nadia's mouth tightened. "They'll come with smiles. They always do," Farid said. "And Dahlia will talk like she owns my daughter," Nadia added. Farid's eyes flashed. "Then don't argue with her words. Use facts." Nadia looked at him. "Facts don't shout." Farid gave a small smile. "Exactly." The next morning, Nadia woke early and sat at the table with the envelope. Sunlight slipped through the curtains in thin lines. She finally opened it. Her eyes moved across the page, slow. Her breathing stopped for a second. Then she let out a careful breath and read it again, because sometimes your brain refuses to accept what your eyes see. When she finished, Nadia didn't cry. She didn't smile either. Her face went still in a new way, like stone that has decided where it stands. She folded the paper and placed it back inside the envelope. Then she slid the envelope into a plain brown folder and closed it. A knock came just after noon. Nadia's heart didn't jump this time. She walked to the door and opened it. Lena stood there first, holding Sammy's hand. Sammy's eyes lit up when he saw Nadia, and he rushed forward, hugging her legs. "Grandma, I missed you!" Nadia bent down and kissed his hair. "I missed you too, my sweet boy." Behind Lena stood Kareem, wearing a bright smile that didn't reach his eyes. And behind Karim, like a shadow that refused to stay outside, stood Dahlia, dressed too nicely for a simple visit, chin lifted, eyes scanning Nadia's home like she was inspecting it. Huda was there too, hovering close to Dahlia, smiling too fast. Dahlia stepped forward without waiting to be invited. "Well," she said, voice sweet and sharp at the same time. "Look at you, still standing." Nadia's hand stayed on the door. She didn't move back. She didn't bow. Karim chuckled like it was a joke. "Mom, please." Dahlia waved him off. "I'm just saying, 70 is a lot. People get emotional at that age." Lena's face went tight. "Mama, we came to celebrate. We're sorry." Nadia looked at Lena's tired eyes, then at Sammy's small hand in Lena's, then at Karim's practiced smile, and finally at Dahlia's proud stare. She stepped aside and let them in, not like a host welcoming family, like a judge allowing people into a courtroom. They sat around the table. Sammy climbed into a chair and swung his legs, happy just to be near Nadia. Karim started talking fast, pouring excuses like water. "The cruise was a surprise," he said. "The timing was crazy. We thought we'd be back in time. You know how things happen." Nadia held up her hand. One simple motion. Karim stopped. Nadia placed the brown folder on the table between them, right in the center, where Dahlia couldn't ignore it. Dahlia's eyes narrowed immediately. "What is that?" Nadia kept her voice calm, almost gentle. "Tea first," she said. "Then we talk." And as she poured the tea, Karim's smile finally slipped, just a little, because he could feel it, whatever Nadia was holding, it wasn't a birthday card. Nadia poured the tea the way she always did. Steady hands, quiet movements, no shaking, no rushing. The cup sat between them like small, polite guards. Sammy blew on his tea even though it was barely warm. "Grandma, can I have biscuits?" Nadia reached for the tin. "Of course, my sweet boy." Lena watched Nadia's hands, then Nadia's face. Lena looked like she wanted to say sorry. 100 times. But didn't know which sorry would matter. Karim cleared his throat and tried again, softer this time. "Nadia, we really didn't mean to hurt you. It was just... everything happened fast. The cruise deal." Nadia lifted one finger. Karim stopped like someone had pulled a string. Nadia didn't glare. She didn't mock him. She just asked one simple question, calm as water. "On my birthday," she said, "where were you?" Lena's lips parted, but she didn't speak. Karim forced a laugh. "You saw. We were traveling. But we planned to make it up to you. We're here now." Dahlia made a small sound with her mouth, like she tasted something bad. "He already said it. Why are we repeating? She's making a big thing out of nothing." Nadia turned her head slowly toward Dahlia. "Nothing," Nadia repeated quietly. Dahlia leaned back in her chair, proud. "At 70, she should be grateful her family even visits. Some old women become needy. They want attention like children." Lena's eyes flashed. "Mama, Dahlia, please." Dahlia waved her hand like Lena was a fly. "Don't correct me. I'm speaking truth. She wanted a party. People had plans. Life goes on." Nadia set the teapot down. The sound was soft, but it landed heavy. She looked at Lena, not at Karim, not at Dahlia. "Just Lena. Did you forget?" Nadia asked. Lena's face tightened. "No. Did you know I was waiting?" Nadia asked. Lena's voice turned small. "Yes." Nadia nodded once, like she had expected that. Then she ooked at Karim. "And you posted the pictures," Nadia said. "You didn't just go. You showed me you went." Karim's smile tried to return. "It was just a post. Everyone posts." Nadia's voice stayed even. "Not on a day when someone you call family is sitting alone with a cake." Karim's jaw worked. He didn't like being spoken to this way. Not because it was rude, because it was true. Huda shifted in her seat, eyes flicking from Dahlia to Nadia. She looked nervous, like she had chosen the wrong side but didn't know how to move. Dahlia leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Listen to me. You are not going to shame my son-in-law in front of everyone. He provides for his family. Lena is lucky. And you," Dahlia's gaze moved over Nadia's home with cold judgment. "You should stop acting like you are owed a crown." Nadia didn't flinch. She simply asked, "Do you hear yourself?" Dahlia scoffed. I hear an old woman who thinks her feelings matter more than reality. Lena whispered, "Stop, please." Dahlia snapped her head toward Lena. "Don't beg. You always beg. That's why you're weak." Sammy froze with a biscuit halfway to his mouth. He looked at Lena's face like he didn't understand why it was hurting. Nadia saw that. Sammy watching, learning. Something in Nadia's chest went still. She sat up straighter, and her voice changed. It wasn't louder. It was firmer. "Final. Enough," Nadia said. Dahlia blinked, surprised. Nadia turned fully toward her. "My daughter doesn't deserve that shrew," Nadia said, clear and sharp, the words cutting through the room like a clean blade. The air went silent. Even the street noise outside felt far away. Lena's eyes widened, and tears rushed up fast, like they had been waiting behind a wall. Kareem's face flushed. "Excuse me?" Dahlia's mouth opened in shock, then twisted into anger. "How dare you?" Nadia raised her hand again, not to threaten, but to stop the noise. "I have watched you," Nadia said to Dahlia, "for years. You insult with a smile. You control with guilt. You turn my daughter into a servant and call it family respect." Dahlia's voice rose. "I made her better. Without me she would still be—" "Stop," Nadia said. Then Nadia looked at Kareem. "And you," she said. "You let it happen. You stand there like a good man while your mother breaks your wife little by little." Kareem's eyes hardened. "Don't talk about me like that." Nadia nodded. "Then act like someone who deserves respect." Kareem glanced at Lena, like he wanted her to defend him. Lena didn't move. She was crying quietly now, shoulders shaking, trying not to make sound. Sammy whispered, "Mom, are you okay?" Lena pulled him close. "I'm okay, Habibi, I'm okay." But her voice said she wasn't. Dahlia pointed at Nadia, furious. "You're jealous. You want Lena all to yourself. You want to break this home because you're lonely." Nadia didn't answer the insult. She reached for the plain brown folder on the table and slid it toward Kareem. Kareem's star. "Ed at it." "What is this?" Nadia's tone stayed calm. "Something you should read." Dahlia leaned in fast. "Give that to me." Nadia didn't look at Dahlia. "It's not for you." Kareem hesitated, then opened the folder. Inside was a single paper, neatly folded. He unfolded it. At first his face stayed normal, confused, annoyed. Then his eyes moved down the page. His mouth went slightly open. The color drained from his cheeks like someone pulled the plug. His hand tightened on the paper so hard it crinkled. Lena whispered, "Scared now, Kareem. What is it?" Dahlia reached across the table, sharp nails flashing. "Let me see." Kareem jerked the paper back, not even thinking, like a man protecting himself from a fire. Nadia watched him with steady eyes. No shouting, no victory dance. Just truth standing in the room. "Sit," Nadia said quietly. "To all of them. No one leaves. Not until we stop lying." Kareem's hands were shaking so much the paper made a dry, angry sound. Lena's eyes were fixed on his face. "Kareem, please. What does it say?" Dahlia's chair scraped the floor as she leaned forward. "Give it to me." Kareem didn't. He couldn't. He stared at the words again like he was hoping they would change if he blinked hard enough. Nadia's voice stayed steady. "Read the line out loud." Kareem swallowed. His throat moved up and down like a small ball was stuck there. He started, then stopped. Sammy looked from one adult to the next, confused. "Why is everyone mad?" Nadia turned her head and softened her face for Sammy. "No one is mad at you, my sweet boy. Go sit near Grandma for a minute." "Okay." Sammy slid his chair closer to Nadia. He took her hand under the table, holding it tight. That small hand made Nadia even steadier. Kareem finally spoke, but his voice sounded thin, like paper. "It says—" He paused again. His eyes flicked to Dahlia, then away. "It says the man you call my father is not my biological father." The room went dead quiet. Lena's mouth fell open. "What?" Dahlia's face turned stiff, like someone had slapped her without touching her. "That's a lie." Kareem looked at his mother as if he was seeing her for the first time. "It's not a lie. It's a DNA test." Dahlia's lips trembled. Then she snapped back into her old habit. "Attack first." "You took some fake test from the internet," she shouted at Nadia. You want to destroy my family because you're bitter. Nadia didn't move. It's a proper test. It was handled correctly, and it matches the records Farid and I checked. Farid's name landed like a stone in the room. Huda shifted, suddenly interested in her tea like it was the most important thing in the world. Lena's voice broke. Mama, why did you do this? Nadia looked at Lena with gentle eyes. Because you were being controlled by a story, and the story was hurting you. Karim stared at the page again, then at Dahlia. His voice rose, not loud but sharp with pain. So all those years, when you told Lena she should be grateful I come from a good line, what were you talking about? Dahlia's eyes flashed. I protected you. Karim's hands clenched. Protected me from what? From the truth. Dahlia stood up fully now, her chest lifting like she was about to give a speech. You don't understand, she snapped. A woman does what she must. If people knew your real father, our name would be ruined. We would be treated like dirt. Lena's face tightened. So you lied to everyone, to look important. Dahlia turned on Lena instantly. Don't you dare judge me. You married into my home. Lena flinched out of habit, then stopped. She looked at Nadia. She looked at Sammy holding Nadia's hand. Then Lena lifted her chin. No, Lena said, voice trembling but clear. I married Karim, not you. Dahlia's eyes widened, shocked, like she had never heard Lena speak like that. Karim's shoulders sagged. The strong, proud son-in-law look was gone. He looked tired, lost. I don't even know who I am, he whispered. Nadia spoke carefully. You are not your mother's lies. You are a man who can choose what to do next. Dahlia pointed at Nadia again, voice rising. You did this to steal Lena from me. Nadia shook her head once. I did this to give her back to herself. Then Nadia looked at Karim, and her voice became firm in a different way. You hurt me on my birthday, she said. You posted your joy while I sat alone. That was cruel. Karim's eyes flickered with guilt. Nadia, didn't let him hide behind excuses. Now you will hear what comes next. She turned to Lena. My daughter, you are not weak. You have just been trained to be quiet. Lena's tears ran, but she nodded. Nadia turned back to Karim. If you want Lena and Sammy in your life, you will set boundaries. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Today, Dahlia laughed, sharp and ugly. Boundaries? In my family. Nadia's eyes locked on her. Not your family. Lena's family. Dahlia's face twisted. You can't take them. Nadia didn't argue. She simply pointed to Sammy. He is watching, Nadia said. If you scream an insult, you are teaching him love is control. If you respect his mother, you teach him love is safety. The room fell quiet again, but this time it wasn't fear, it was choice. Karim looked at Lena, his voice cracked. I'm sorry. Lena wiped her cheeks. Sorry isn't enough anymore. Karim nodded slowly, like the truth was finally sinking into his bones. He turned to Dahlia. No more, Karim said. You don't talk to Lena like that again. You don't plan our life. You don't decide who we visit. And you will not punish Lena for loving her mother. Dahlia stared at him like he had betrayed her. You're choosing her? Dahlia hissed. Karim swallowed. I'm choosing my wife, and my son. And the truth. Dahlia's mouth opened, then closed. For once she had no powerful words. Nadia stood up and walked to Lena. She took Lena's hands the same way she used to when Lena was a G. Arl, I love you, Nadia said softly. But love doesn't mean I accept disrespect. Lena nodded, crying harder now, but it looked like relief too. Nadia looked at Karim one last time. You can rebuild, but rebuilding is work, not posts, not smiles, work. Karim nodded again, pale. I understand. Nadia turned to Dahlia. And you, she said quietly, you don't scare me anymore. Dahlia's eyes burned, but the power was gone. The crown was only a hat. Nadia kissed Sammy's forehead. Go with your mother, sweet boy. Sammy hugged Nadia tight. Will you be okay? Nadia smiled. This time it was warm and real. I will be better than okay. When they finally left, the apartment felt quiet again. But it wasn't the lonely quiet from her birthday. It was peaceful quiet. Nadia sat down, poured herself fresh tea, and looked at the chair where Dahlia had sat. Then she whispered to the empty room. 70 is not the end. It's the start of telling the truth. If this story moved you, and you want more powerful family stories with big twists and real lessons, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment one word: truth. That way I'll know to bring you the next one.